So here's the thing, and this is what this is about. We know, Jesus said, "Hey, look at the birds." Actually, he said, "Behold the birds." Big difference, but anyway, he said, "Behold the birds." He said, "They don't sow, they don't plant crops, they don't reap in the fall. They're not wheat farmers in Saskatchewan, where I used to be for one summer. They don't do that. They don't store up into barns. Yet your heavenly Father feeds them." And so I think some people get the idea that maybe the birds, they just hang around all day at the beach or whatever it is, and they don't do anything. But the fact of the matter is, they there is a tremendous responsibility that the birds take on. And one of those things, basically the book I'm going to do has 12 habits that I've documented. Or 12, yeah, one of those, they stick to their design. Another one is they have a morning ritual that they do, which is, they call it the dawn course. We've covered those things already. But the next thing I'm going to be talking about is what I'm doing here today is that they forage every day. They go foraging, they go looking for food. And so I thought, well, okay, if they're going to be doing that, like, what is it that they do and what can we learn from that? So let's get into it a little bit. This is the unseen labor behind the effortless flight. We see birds, we see them flying, we think, oh, that's pretty cool, and all that, and it is. But there's something that happens before all that happens. They have the body of the day. In other words, they start the morning and they sing. Great. They finish the day sometimes and they sing, and that's great too. But in the middle of the day, the body of the day, the bulk of the day is built with work. It's not frantic work. It's not stressful work. It's not fear-driven work, but it is work. It's steady, faithful, persistent, daily action, which is the lifeblood of a bird's survival. The Bible tells us to be diligent, right? There's nothing in the Bible that encourages you or me to be lazy, and his creation isn't that way either. So I take a look at this and I think, okay, birds are not creatures of luck. They are creatures of habit. If you take a look at this bird, it is let me see here. They spend more time searching for food than they do flying. So that's an interesting thing that they do that. So they're doing that. Now, this particular bird is a sandpiper, okay? It's a constant, tireless forager, constant movement, constant searching. That's what it's doing all the time. And along the shoreline, sandpipers make hundreds of darting little probes into the sand every hour, and their success depends on never stopping. The tide moves, the prey moves, and they move. They display persistent adaptability. They're always scanning, they're always probing, they're always adjusting. And I'm saying that because if you need to understand something. If I can get this across, and I've been trying to get it across for some time, these birds are a reflection of the wisdom of God. God's wisdom is embedded in what he made. You can see his design. We're going to be talking about some of the design features that he put into each and every bird. But it's something that is a reflection of what he values. It's just something about his nature. He doesn't do crappy work. It's spectacular. And so when you learn what he put in there, you don't look at it and say, boy, that bird is smart, or the bird, whatever. You can if you want to, but really, it's God is the one who's smart. It's his wisdom that he has put there for you and I to look at, to learn from, and if you care to, you can benefit from it. So let me get into the next one here. Foraging habits. Most birds forage. They go, in other words, they're looking for food 4 to 8 hours a day, depending on the species. It also depends on the season, a couple other factors. But the smaller the bird, the more time that they spend foraging, which is interesting. If you take a look at hummingbirds, they feed between 8 to 12 hours a day because their bodies run on the edge of energetic impossibility. Now, here's something. This is an amazing fact. They consume half their body weight in sugar every day. Now, their wings are flapping 50 to 80 times a second. Their heart's beating 1,260 times a minute. And if you weigh, let's say, 200 pounds and you did half your body weight in sugar, it's like 100 pounds of sugar a day. I mean, can you imagine when you'd be, I guess we'd be flapping our wings like a hummingbird. I don't know. But anyway, that's what they do. Now, medium-sized medium-sized birds like robins and blackbirds, they'll forage, they'll look for food maybe 4 to 6 hours a day. The large birds like ravens and seagulls, they'll spend 2 to 4 hours a day. And then you got the raptors like the hawks, the owls, the eagles. They might spend one, maybe up to 3 hours actively hunting, but they're going to spend a lot more hours observing, soaring, and waiting for the prey to show up. But faithfulness, not excitement, feeds a life. A hummingbird may drink nectar from 1,000 flowers before dusk. This is what they do. 1,000 flowers before dusk. They simply do what aligns with their design, which is daily small movements repeated consistently. They don't rush. They don't panic. They don't complain that it shouldn't be this hard. They're not like that. Birds don't wait until they feel like foraging. They forage because that's what keeps them alive. That's what they're made for. And success for people in any field belongs not so much to the brilliant people, but to the person who's consistent. Now, listen, I know a guy who's got about $250 million worth of business, revenue in his companies that he owns. And he always drives a point home that is, you do the certain things, the specific things. It's nothing magical. You do something well and you do it consistently, and you'll have good success. Now, speaking of consistency, let me see. That bird, does anybody know what that bird is? Anybody know what that is? That is an albatross. Apparently, you don't want one of those things around your neck. Consistency rarely comes from one massive action. Success rarely comes from one massive action. It comes from thousands of tiny, consistent actions. Small steps compound into massive outcomes. Now, this albatross, which you're looking at here, can fly hundreds of miles a day searching for food, but is always going to return faithfully to feed their single chick. And they repeat this for months, steady, reliably, with immense persistence. The sheer scale of faithfulness and the vast miles that they do every single day and then return without excuse. It's a very good habit. One of the things you're going to get out of this is, okay, what can I do that's consistent? Because I see this all the time in marketing efforts with businesses or sales efforts. They try something and then they quit after, I tried YouTube advertising or Facebook advertising and it didn't work. What do you mean it didn't work? Well, I spent, $500 on it. You didn't do anything. That's not going to even begin to touch it. It's a lot more, it takes at least most of the time, 90 days just to get the algorithms working the way you want and test out what you have. So consistency is an important thing. But here's what we're talking about in our life is we've got to partner with God. God doesn't throw the food in the nest. You've heard me say that before, but he provides the environment of provision. Birds still have to do the work of gathering. And if they're going to gather, then how do they do that? What are the traits that they have that do that? The partnership is really divine. God provides the opportunities. Birds provide the action. In our lives, God provides you opportunities, provides me opportunities, but we have to step up and take certain actions as well. So let's talk about compounding returns. We haven't got to the 13 laws yet. We'll get to them. Consistency is not the same as business. An egret foraging is a blend of movement and stillness, action and patience, and it teaches one of the aspects of success that consistency is nowhere near the same as busyness. The egret knows this. It waits, it watches, it strikes only when the opportunity yields value. Birds are not frantic, they're steady. In business, when you're frantic, it burns energy and produces little return. I know I've done frantic. It doesn't do well for me. It's not a good thing to be frantic, for sure. Steady action produces compounding returns. So we're looking for, if I'm going to do something, like, it's not complicated, it's not rocket science. It is in the air, it is birds, but it's not rocket science. I'm going to be consistent and I'm going to produce compounding returns. Now, in the Jesus School of Business, we talk about what you get consistent in, what the specific things are, what are the strategies and all that. But leaving that for now, harmony in the hustle. Constant action is not a burden when it aligns with your design. You look at these hummingbirds, right? You think that's got to wear you out. No, it would wear you out. It would wear me out, but they're designed for it. Remember the first law that we talked about here, the first of the 12 habits is birds stay consistent with their design. A robin can't do what the hummingbird's doing, and a hummingbird's not going to catch fish. It's just the way that works. So people mistakenly believe that action should always feel easy, but it doesn't. Birds demonstrate that action feels effortless only when it is consistent and aligned. You got to keep it consistent, and it's aligned with your destiny, with your purpose, if you will. So, and next here. When action aligns with calling, hustle, this hustle thing becomes harmony. In other words, somebody else is hustling. I got to hustle. No. When you're aligned with your calling, then it's harmony. It's a flow. It's easy. Let me take you, for example. I got a couple examples, Amazon and Toyota. I'm not championing these people. I'm not talking about whether I like them or don't like them. I'm just taking them as a business example. Successful companies grow not through occasional brilliance, but through daily cadence. If you take a look at Amazon, they became a $1 trillion company, not through giant leaps, but through, this is important, but through relentless daily improvement, tiny adjustments, and constant optimization. Bezos said, our success at Amazon is a function of how many experiments we do per year, per month, per week, and per day. This is if you're looking for success, it's somebody who obsesses over how can I make this better, this better, this better. Toyota does something similar. They have something called the Kaizen habit, which means continuous improvement. And Toyota built an empire on daily small refinements. They didn't do them on annual overhauls. Every day they're looking for what's in a refinement that we can do till they got better and better and better. So those are great examples of that. Now, the hawk teaches that daily discipline does not always look like obvious action, because sometimes it looks like consistent attention. That hawk will be gliding, circling, but he's paying attention to the field, if you will. Now, entrepreneurs often make the mistake of grinding. I just got to grind it out. I know I've done the grinding. Maybe you're in the middle of the grind right now, but that's not the way God intended it. Hawks don't grind, they glide. And then the principle is that daily foraging includes both doing and watching. It includes both gathering and guiding. And it also includes hunting and hovering. And so what we see here is there's, like, for me, part of my day is when it says watching. What does that mean for me as a business person? For me as a business person, watching, that's the information that comes in through my eyes. That's the input that I allow into my life, or at least part of it. And so I read, I watch videos, I learn, I study all the time, every day. There's not a day that I can think of that I don't do this. I work some, and I study some, and I pray some. I'm watching, I'm gathering, hunting, I'm hovering, all those things. An entrepreneur's got to scan the horizon, read the market, adjust their positioning, observe customer behavior, stay aware of industry shifts, and watch competitors without copying them. Now, something else here. That's an osprey. They're all over my area where I live. I see them all the time. And the idea here is to not celebrate intensity, but start practicing consistency. The osprey may be one of the greatest work ethic birds on the planet. They are creatures of productive habit. Many osprey, this is crazy, they'll fish the same lake, the same bay, the same section of the river, often at the exact same time of day. It's kind of like daily manna. They just get their manna every day. And some ospreys will use the exact same perch for years because it gives them the best visibility and angle. This bird that we're talking about here, the osprey, is a master of one thing, and that's catching fish. And it does that one thing with near perfect consistency. They succeed nearly 1 out of 4 dives, which in the animal world, that's exceptional. Success comes, if you want to learn how do I be successful, from repeatable routines, not random attempts. What's something that is a routine that I can get better at, get better at, get better at? Because focus produces mastery. A divided bird, divided attention, starves. A focused bird thrives. Or as Confucius said, man who chases 2 rabbits catches none. Modern culture celebrates intensity. They like the hustle culture, the overnight success, the viral moments, the massive launches, and the big wins. But nature celebrates consistency. It may be boring, but it's been working for thousands of years. The consistency, the dawn course, the daily foraging, the seasonal molting, the perpetual migration, the continuous nest maintenance, the steady parenting, the regular territory monitoring, the consistent things that they do. A big part of their success has a lot to do with consistency. Now, let's talk about the common sparrow. These things, this is what Jesus talked about. And it blew my mind because it says, you can buy what, 2 sparrows for a penny or whatever it was. Like, I thought, who would buy a sparrow? But apparently they were kind of like food for poor people. And they, not the greatest food. And I guess there's not a lot of meat on it, but that's what they would buy. So, but here's what we learned from that. Do the small things daily, and the large things will come in due season. And so I'm going to say to you, what are the little things that contribute to the bigger things that are required so that the bigger thing comes to pass? And if I can identify what are the small things, like making the calls, it's a simple thing. I'm making cold calls, making phone calls. I'm just sending emails or whatever. I'm writing a blog, so I have to write a blog every day. I'm writing a book. I want to do 1,500 words or whatever it is every day. What are the small things that I can do every day so the large things come in due season? I made a decision with this book. I liked what I did. I thought it was excellent. Did a lot of research on it. But then I decided I'm going to take a different tack on it. So I'm starting over again. And my goal is to knock out, because I've done so much work on it already, a chapter a day. And if I can get that done, which I haven't, by the way, but I'm doing a lot of work. Nonetheless, if I can do the small things, the big thing's going to come to pass. So sparrows spend most of their waking hours, they're pecking, they're scratching, they're testing, they're hopping around, they're searching. Their lives are built on continual micro foraging. They're not sitting around waiting for God to throw something in the nest. They are the blue collar workers of the bird world. And they show that greatness hides in ordinary faithfulness. They do the work that no one else does. Success often looks like small, faithful acts repeated without fanfare. And I know of a man who started a company cleaning gutters off of, at houses. And he ended up systemizing it, getting good at doing the little things and doing those little things repeated in a systemized way. And he did that, built the company up, and I think he sold it for something like $100 million. It was a tremendous amount of money that he sold it for, because he, became multi-state and all that kind of stuff. But he just did a very boring business, but he did it consistently and he did it well. And greatness often hides in ordinary things like faithfulness. And you'll see that. So I'm looking for greatness, and you're going to find it, really, it's just being faithful. Now, having laid that foundation, this is what I said we're going to be talking about. This is the 13 laws of foraging, how birds find what they need, and you can too. The idea here is, when I look at this and I think, okay, God, why did you make the robin this way? Why did you make the eagle that way? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? What's in them? You don't see them. They're not like slovenly. They're not whatever they are. They're amazing creatures. And so I'm looking at them saying, what did you do? Why did you do it? And if it's good here, can I use it here? So that's kind of the essence of it. Now, I mentioned the robin. So here's the first law. It's called the law of early seeking. Proverbs 8:17 says, they that seek me early will find me. So long before the world stirs, the robin steps into a realm most creatures never witness. The sky is still ink black. The horizon has only begun to imagine the coming dawn. But the robin's timing is not luck, it's alignment. It rises when God stirs him. Too early, and the rewards remain buried. If he gets up too early, the worms are still down low. If he gets up too late, the bounty belongs to somebody else. It's just the way it goes. So there's a certain timing, and you can say that God wakes him up. Well, here's what they do before they go looking for food. And this is a clue. I do this every day. I don't sing every day because I don't want the neighbors to call the cops. But seek the source before the supply. Robins sing before they search. In other words, they align their day, they declare their day, they set it in order before they go looking for food. Now, they want to be the first one out, so they start singing pretty early. But that's what they do. The one who begins, you and me, who begins with God, you're going to find that God has already begun working. That's been my experience. It's like, seek you first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Seek him first. It's the first rule. I got to go after him first. I like to get up in the dark. Oh, dark 30 is my favorite time. I get up, I get a cup of coffee, and I have quiet time. And I mean, it's phenomenal. Reading, studying, learning, it's great. I love it. The early seeker is not merely one who wakes early, but it's one who listens before labor. Catch that. It's very important. Very important. I'm not as consistent at that as I'd like to be, but I do endeavor to do that. And I'm more faithful with every day. But the thing is, before I labor, I want to listen. I want to quiet my heart. I want to listen. Before you look at your inbox, before you look at your calendar, before your mind fills with noise, seek the whisper, the subtle voice of God. And I do that by in his word and other ways I do. I might listen to him in a lot of different ways, but that's primarily what I do. So this is the law of the early seeker. The second law is the law of target-rich patches. Psalm 23, David said, he makes me to lie down in the desert. No, wait a minute. What does that say? He makes me to lie down in green pastures. Green pastures. We got to go to green pastures. A finch that you see pictured there studies the field before landing. A heron waits where he knows the fish are going to gather. A swallow glides above the meadow where gnats are thick in the air. Every one of them knows that abundance is rarely everywhere, but it is always somewhere. Now, a warbler does not, that's actually a warbler, that's not a finch. A warbler does not waste its morning flitting through barren branches. It moves with intention, darting from limb to limb until it finds what every seasoned forager knows to seek. It's looking always for a target-rich patch. What does that look like for you? Where's the best chance for success for you? Where's the ideal target for you? Where have you had the most success in the past? I remember Peter Daniels and I were chatting a few years ago, and he said, well, Michael, in all of your history, where have you had the most success? What things have worked the best for you? He's basically talking about target-rich patches. What are the things that have worked? Where, if you're in a business that calls on a certain type of, well, I'll give you an example. Back in the early 80s, well, 84, I guess it was. I was selling copiers in Toronto, Canada, and the company I worked for sold Minolta copiers, and they were the first one out with what is called a zoom lens copier. That meant you could adjust to magnify or reduce your original to 100, 200 different sizes, whatever. It was a zoom. It could large and small, whatever you wanted, and it was phenomenal. And printers could now do something for 2 cents that used to cost them $2. And because a printer would make a what they used to call a PMT of something as a draft to show their clients to get approval. But now they could do it on a copier instead of that other machine. The other machine cost them $2 a copy. This cost them 2 cents a copy. Well, when we got out, I wasn't smart enough to know this. So I've sold the copier to lawyers and realtors, car dealers, printers, whoever. But the
Suggest we focus on leaving here.
somebody needs to mute himself, if you would, please, whoever that is. I can't see it. I thought Barb's. I think it might have been Barb's. Okay. So anyway, but one of the guys was smart. He just went out and all he did was go after printers. He made 20 grand that month. I was pretty impressed for a copier sales guy to make $20,000 that month because he said, I know where the target rich market is right now. I'm going after that. And the warbler's genius is pretty simple. He never will linger where the yield is low. It searches not for any food. It's looking for concentrated food, places where provision clusters, where it multiplies, where it renews itself. Because, my friends, life pools in pockets. Provision forms in predictable zones. Grapes grow in clusters. There's a thing there, and we know about that. And so, what I've seen is God often hides abundance in concentrated places. Wisdom is not merely working hard everywhere, but working faithfully where the fruit is actually growing. Success is not found in endless striving, but in discerning where grace is flowing. Because birds don't pray for food to come to them. That's not what they do. They're not into that. They go where God has already released it. Now, there's a principle there. There's a principle there. You're saying, oh, God, bless me. Lord, bring me this, bring me that. Lord, I need this, I need that. No. Lord, where have you placed it? Where are the people that you want me to help today? Where are the people that I can serve today? Where are the customers, the companies, whatever? You've got them someplace. Take me there. Show me how to go there where they are gathered, where they're clustered, wherever that is, and let me help them there. Because success accelerates when you operate in your target-rich environment. The prospects who are already hungry, that's what you're looking for. The clients who are already looking, the arenas where your gifts naturally multiply. In your work, your job is to find the target-rich patches. Not everything's the same. Not everything's created equal. What is the target-rich niche? Think of it as a niche. Where are those? Go to the markets, to the relationships, or the ideas where the response is the highest and your resistance is the lowest. Look for the high probability opportunities. This is the parable of the sower. You heard about that, right? There's 4 types of soil. There's hard soil, there's stony soil, there's thorny soil, and there's good soil. Well, what does good soil look like? That's where you need to go. What does a hard, trodden upon piece of soil look like that it doesn't grow anything? You can't grow anything. What does a customer look like that's hard soil? I don't want to call on them. What does a customer look like that's got a bunch of rocks in it? It's shallow, doesn't make very big commitments. Well, I'm not going to waste my time on those. What does a thorny prospect look like? They're all distracted with a million other things. I don't want to work with them. A good client is somebody who's ready to receive the seed. What does that look like? And when you find that out, you're going to learn something. 84% of the harvest in the parable of the sower comes from 17% of the seed. I've done the math. It's amazing. This is why we want to target the law of target-rich patches. Inside the Jesus School, by the way, that's one of the things I break down is how do you do that? What are the 4 types of soil? And in terms of marketing and in terms of sales, and how do you work with them? Because sometimes when you call on people, you don't know what they are. So maybe it's a rocky one, or maybe it's a thorny one. You don't necessarily walk away from it. It's just more work to get it done. So anyway, 3rd law. This is a natural law. It's called the law of giving up density. Hebrews 12:1 says, let us lay aside every weight. And what you see here is a fox sparrow. He will scratch, he will listen, he will scratch again. But after a few moments, sometimes something becomes clear. The returns on his effort are diminishing. The patch is quiet. The insects, they've moved on. They've taken off. What once offered promise has become empty ground. It's not working anymore. The sparrow does something many creatures and many people struggle to do. It leaves, not in frustration, not in panic, but in wisdom. Birds live by a principle biologists call giving up density. When the density of reward drops below a profitable threshold, they stop. This is not quitting, it's discernment. The sparrow knows that energy is precious and time is short. Staying in the wrong place is more costly than leaving it. And so the wings lift, the direction shifts, and the bird moves toward a better blessing. So if we were sitting in a room talking to each other, if I could see your face to face and we could interact better, I would ask you about this. Where are your returns getting, it's kind of break even or whatever. Okay. Maybe it's time to move on, change something, different niche, a different, whatever the change are, depending what it is. But not every field that once fed you will feed you forever. And God leads us from season to season. Wisdom is the courage to release what is no longer fruitful. The habits, the strategies, maybe even the relationships or the assignments, so that you can enter the fields God has freshly prepared. There are habits that we have, probably not serving you. There are strategies that were great at the time, but maybe not so much now. There were relationships, business or personal, that, maybe it's just not what it used to be. Maybe that relationship can be a little bit more distant. The assignment, maybe that has changed. These are all things that you have to look at, because you'd probably need to redirect your energy to fertile ground. Fruitfulness begins where unnecessary weight ends. And when a product, a message, or a market no longer yields fruit, it's not failure. It's an invitation to pivot. And I'm going to tell you right now, some of you probably are at a place right now you're saying, I did this for years, but it's not fruitful anymore. Maybe it's time to pivot. It doesn't mean if you build beautiful shelving, and custom woodwork inside a home, it doesn't mean that you go into professional soccer. But there's a way to pivot, and you say, Lord, I got to pivot. What is that way? And I've had to do that myself. And I say, Lord, what's the deal? What do we do here? And sometimes it's time to pivot. In business and life, giving up density means recognizing when effort stops yielding increase. Simple. When is my effort not yielding an increase? It means releasing some of those dead leads, or the stale offer, or the outdated product, or the draining partnership, or the ineffective routine. What are those things that are no longer producing like they did? Then it's time to, from there, move on. Law number 4, the law of quiet footing. Isaiah 30 says, in quietness and confidence shall be your strength. Before the sun climbs the trees, when I'm out walking my dog, I can see it coming up. Before the heron glides into the marsh on soundless wings, they make a lot of noise if they don't like it, but they're quiet otherwise. Its long legs will slip beneath the water with barely a ripple. Every movement from then on is deliberate. Every pause is measured. The heron is a master of quiet footing, which is the art of moving so calmly, so patiently, that the world reveals to you its hidden treasures. And it succeeds not by splashing towards its goal, but by standing so quietly that the blessing swims right to its feet. And then, with impeccable timing, it strikes. One precise motion, one clean catch, one victory earned through calm presence rather than frantic pursuit. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Let this sink in. Provision flees commotion. Opportunity withdraws from chaos. You know, a lot of ways you can look at that, but a prospective client, if he sees chaos and things are like not working too well, you haven't got your act together, they're probably going to go someplace else. Business doesn't like commotion and it doesn't like chaos. When your footing is quiet, however, your discernment sharpens and God's timing becomes clear. And I'm going to tell you this, preaching to myself too. The quiet heart hears divine cues that others miss. The peaceful spirit notices doors that God opens before they slam shut. I'm out walking my dog tonight, early on, at some point today, anyways, just before dinner, I guess it was. And I see somebody walking, with a walker, could barely get it by. I don't know how he's even out, but he was. And I just felt the gentle nudge of the Spirit to go up to that man and engage him in a conversation. Just was so kind to him, and I could tell he really appreciated it. But you know what? It was like I'm out peacefully walking, and I get that nudge. Same is true in business. The quiet heart hears divine cues. If I'm always got something in my ears, always got something playing, my heart is not so quiet at that point. Now, anxiety makes noise, but wisdom makes room. In business, quiet footing looks like clarity before emails. In business, quiet footing looks like calmness before meetings, composure in heated negotiations. In leadership and negotiation, quiet confidence outperforms loud ambition. I love it when you can be in a situation and tension is gone and a quiet calm is there. That person is likely going to succeed in it. So slow your internal pace. Move with intention and let peace be the platform from which you perceive opportunity. This is the law of quiet footing. And number five, the law of patch renewal. The scripture says, behold, I am doing a new thing. Shall you not perceive it? See, once a patch of ground is exhausted, this is a goldfinch. The goldfinch does not abandon it forever. It moves on, allowing nature the space to restore what was taken. The goldfinch keeps track of something deeper. It takes into mind the cycles of renewal. They don't mourn empty patches. They anticipate renewed ones. Why? Because in the forests, in the fields, in the marshes, the meadows, renewal is always happening. Caterpillar populations rebound. So do mosquitoes, unfortunately. Fruit clusters ripen. Insect swarms hatch anew. What was barren becomes blessed. Birds thrive because they know to trust the regenerative rhythms woven into creation. What looks depleted is often, in the quiet stage, simply of renewal. And God replenishes us. He replenishes joy. He replenishes vision. Excuse me. He replenishes opportunity, creativity, favor, and provision. But you must learn to perceive renewal before you see the fruit. To believe that what seems empty may be gathering abundance beneath the surface. I'm going to tell you something very personal. I'm only going to spend about 21 seconds on it, maybe 23. We'll see how it does. You can time me. But my wife of 24 years passed away. And you want to talk about feeling like empty. I was empty. I had no idea I'd get my head above water, let alone breathe again, let alone walk again, let alone soar again. But it turns out that God had something that he was preparing beneath the surface, beneath what I could see, that came into my life at the right time and restored, wonderfully restored me to incredible levels. And God builds restoration into every season. As the Bible says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy, oh boy, joy comes in the morning. In business, patch renewal looks like revisiting former clients, past leads, or old ideas after a season of rest. Markets will cycle, interest will renew, timing shifts. What once was a no becomes a not yet, and later turns into a now. So don't write off the leads forever just because they were empty once, just because they said no 6 months ago or yesterday or whenever it was. Return with fresh eyes. The patch may have renewed while you were away because things change. They always, always do. So birds know this. This is what you look at. The patch renewal says, okay, you know what? Well, we got everything out of that. Let it grow back. And I'll come back when it's replenished. That's number 5. Number 6 is the law of weather windows. Bible says in Ecclesiastes, Solomon said this, to everything, you've heard it, to everything there's a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. Okay. That's a whooping crane right there. They're all over my around my house, front, back, and everything else. They do not depart on a whim. They migrate. They're one of the great migrators. But they do not choose their moment. They do not choose their moment by convenience. They wait for the exact atmospheric conditions that will maximize lift, that will minimize drag, that will carry them hundreds of miles with minimal effort. A single weather window can turn an exhausting journey into a near effortless glide. If they go too early, they're going to have to battle headwinds. If they're going to go too late, the storms can trap them. But if they go with the right window, the sky becomes a pathway of grace. And the same opportunity that exhausts one man propels another because he caught the wind, not the work. God opens windows of favor just as he opens seasons of growth. You know, success does not always come to the strongest. Often it comes to the best timed. You've heard it said, timing. Timing. Listen, not every day is equal. Some moments carry wind. Some days carry grace. Some opportunities are atmospherically charged for breakthrough. The sons of Issachar in Chronicles, I think it's 12:38, First Chronicles, I think it is. They were able to discern the times. That doesn't mean they could look at the watch. It means they could pick up what season it says, what's going on, what is the thing that's happening right now, and they could pick up on it. In fact, the tribe of Zebulun would pay them to tell them what the times are, so they'd be able to take advantage of them. But not every day is equal. So you say, well, when there's something happens, I'm going to act on it. Why is that? It's kind of important because provision is not just about effort, because God helps us sometimes with momentum. Some of you remember the video that I did, and it says like 27 stories, of hearing God or whatever it was. Up until then, my videos would get several hundred views. That one got 250,000 and counting. Like what? It was just like there was something else that happened. I got some momentum on that. Provision will follow perception. You see, the law of weather windows is that I can perceive something is changing. Pay attention to that. There's something that says to you, that speaks to you, that I perceive there is a change here. And those who are paying attention to market signals, those who are paying attention, if you'll do that, you'll find that you'll be stepping into provision, because wisdom discerns the timing, not just the task. We think, well, what's the wise thing to do? Okay, guess what? That might be a bit of a challenge, but it's not as hard as knowing when to do it. Wisdom discerns the timing. This is what the law of weather windows is really about, is the timing issue. Because in business, weather windows appear as market shifts or customer readiness or sudden openings or unexpected green lights. And the wise leader senses when resistance eases and momentum gathers, and they move immediately. I remember, let me give you an example. Because this bird, it just starts to stir. It doesn't know why. It just feels like I got to do this. I don't know why. Maybe they do. I don't know, but I don't think they do. They just got to head south or wherever they're going to go, right? And it's like they take an action. Well, on a smaller scale, I remember being right here in the same office that I'm in right this minute. And I was in here and I was just praying. And I think I was actually laying on the floor, if I remember it right. And all of a sudden, the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, "Call Kent Humphreys." At the time, he was the president or CEO, whatever it was, of Fellowship of Companies for Christ International, a big group that I love and admire. And he said, "Call him right now." And he didn't know me, and I didn't know him. I just knew his name. I just knew that that organization has their events every year in Ritz-Carlton hotels all over the world. Well, mostly North America and Caribbean, I guess. But anyway, that's what they do. And I thought I'd always wanted to speak there. That would be like the pinnacle for me at the time. So I picked up the phone and I called, and it just so happened I caught him. And he didn't answer. I mean, his assistant put me through to him, and we had a bit of a chat. Turns out he was heading to Atlanta the next week, and I live in Sarasota, but I was heading to Atlanta next week because I was putting on a conference. I asked him to speak at mine. He did. And then he invited me to speak at his several times. And so there was this thing like this, learn to be sensitive to it. I was sitting in a restaurant in 1999. Don't know what month it was, but on that particular day, gold hit the lowest price it had had and it has not been that low since. It hit $260 an ounce. Now, I didn't track the price of gold. I didn't follow it. I knew about it, but I didn't pay any attention to it. I was having lunch. And all of a sudden, the Holy Spirit said to me, "Go home and get that cash you have and buy gold." Went home right after lunch, took the cash, went to a dealer, put it all on the gold. He said, "What's going on?" He said, "The price of gold has jumped $4 so far today." I said, "I have no idea. I was just there because God told me to buy it." So I ended up paying 264. I sold it years later, but that was a great investment for me. But that's the thing, is like learning to listen, the supernatural power of God that's available to anybody who wants it. Learn to sense when resistance eases and momentum gathers, and move immediately. When you sense something like I had it, like I had a release, go now and buy gold. Now, you might think, well, I check the price of gold every day. I hadn't checked it. I don't know if I'd ever checked it. Probably had, but certainly not. It wasn't something I did. But when you get it, you move on it. You don't want to go too soon. You don't want to go too late. You don't want to fly into a headwind, but you don't want to delay when the tailwind when the tailwind's rising. You want I want to catch that. Success accelerates when you act inside the divine window where conditions multiply your effort. Move when the Spirit lifts you, and rest when He stills. This is the thing. Timing is God's leverage. Timing is leverage. Ecclesiastes 9:11. I can't teach it right now. It's an hour teaching. If you're inside the School of Business, by the way, you'll get this. But when it says that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, right? Nor bread to the wise, nor understanding to, nor riches to men of understanding, nor favor to men of skill. It says, but time and chance happens to everybody. The word for time is like, what do you mean time and chance? As a flip of a coin? Well, no, it's actually not even a word. It's actually the Aleph Tav, the first and last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. It's like saying A to Z, Alpha and Omega, beginning and the end. It's like, in other words, it's God's imprint. God's timing trumps strength and speed and even knowledge and wisdom and skill. It trumps all of that. Timing is God's leverage point. And when you learn to hear it, learn to step into it, you will have some pretty remarkable results. I can tell you that from experience. I could, but I'm not going to spend the rest of the night with story after story of that. But I promise you that's there. And it's part of law number 6, the law of weather windows. Number 7, anybody know what that bird is? Come on. It's a downy woodpecker. It works its way up the trunk of an oak tree. It doesn't fly to the top to search for insects. It doesn't leap from branch to branch, hoping that he's going to find something somewhere. The woodpeckers advance inch by inch, tap by tap, listening to the hollow echo that reveals hidden larvae beneath the bark. And every inch and every tiny movement is purposeful. A few inches upward, a few inches sideways, watch them. Then another tap, The woodpecker knows that provision is rarely found all at once. It's uncovered through steady, rhythmic diligence. There it is, steady again, consistent. That's the secret here. And what it does is it trusts the process. Small advances, consistent movement, faithful effort. See, the miracle is not the sudden harvest. It's the steady uncovering of unseen abundance that was always waiting just beneath the surface. Breakthrough is usually the result of many faithful taps, many small acts of obedience, many tiny course corrections. Small steps compound into unstoppable momentum and eventually into mastery. Now, incremental advancement does not look impressive. I get it. I get it. But I just watched something on the news today at 60 Minutes or whatever it was. I don't know, a little clip. It's this stock trading, but it's done with the computer, and they make, trades in microseconds. I mean, it's so fast that you can't even detect them. And it does that, and they're making maybe a penny on every trade. But they do millions of trades a day, and so it adds up. Anyway, but there's more to it I can't get into right now. I don't want to, I should say. But incremental advancement does not look impressive at the moment. It looks like monotony when you're doing it in real life. It looks like patience, but it accumulates. This incremental thing builds. It compounds until what once seemed unreachable becomes achieved. And God often leads through gradual steps, not giant leaps. Not all the time, but a lot of times. The kingdom grows like a seed. Starts quietly, steadily, inevitably. You don't throw a mustard seed in the grass and the next day it's a tree. It doesn't work like that. In business, incremental advancement, which is modeled in nature everywhere, is the discipline of daily progress. A few calls made, a few pages written, a few systems improved, a few relationships strengthened. The leader who moves faithfully by inches achieves more than the one who waits for the perfect moment or the massive leaps. Robert Schuller has gone on to be with the Lord, but years and years and years ago, I remember him saying, or I read it in a book, inch by inch, anything's this inch. Mile by mile takes a while. And I'm going to tell you, every time I have something difficult to do, or it's big, or something very heavy to move, I tell myself, if I can move that thing an inch, I can move it a mile. And so incremental increase is a big thing. The law of incremental advancement. Next, number 8 of the 13, the law of mixed flocks. The Bible says that 2 are better than 1, for they have a good reward for the labor, and a threefold cord is not easily broken. No single species, catch this, no single species has enough eyes to watch every direction. No one bird can detect every predator and cover every insect or navigate every shifting condition, but together, they become a mobile intelligence network. This mixed flock is not a random gathering. It is strategic community, and each species keeps its identity, yet gains multiplied provision through shared presence. For example, the chickadee, it's the first one to sound an alarm. Chickadee, dee, dee, dee. Makes that, it sounds, the more D's, the more the danger is. It sounds the alarm. Its sharp calls telling the forest exactly where danger lies. Then you got the nuthatch. I don't know who named it. Who said that's a nuthatch? I don't know. But anyway, the nuthatch scours the trunks upside down, finding insects that others walk past. He's doing it upside down. That's pretty creative. The woodpecker hammers into bark no warbler could ever pierce. And the warbler gleans in midair what everyone else stirs up. Every bird brings a different gift, and every bird benefits from the gift of others. So here it is. Abundance accelerates in the company of the wise. Food is found faster. Danger is spotted sooner. Energy is conserved. Survival rates skyrocket. God designed increase to flow through collaboration, not isolation. Your gifts sharpen others. Their gifts cover you. What you cannot see, someone else can. What you cannot reach, someone else will uncover. And in business and life, your mixed flock is your strategic circle consisting of your mentors, your peers, your collaborators, your partners, your intercessors, your advisors. When we do the Jesus School of Business, you get to be in there. I do consulting and coaching and lots of stuff with you guys People that are in it know what I'm talking about. But that's an important part of that. Don't forage alone. Build alliances with people who complement your strengths and who compensate for your blind spots. Because the leader who walks with a diverse circle sees more, learns more, avoids more danger, and reaches more opportunity than the solitary genius ever will. Number 9 of 13, the law of energy conservation. Jesus said, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. There's a red-tailed hawk right there, and high on a thermal column. That hawk begins to rise, not by flapping, not with strain, not with stillness, not with strain, but with stillness, because warm air lifts it skyward, and the hawk simply spreads its wings, letting the invisible currents do most of the work. So, what am I saying here? Wasted energy. Wasted energy is stolen opportunity. If you spend your energy on something that you don't need to, like don't flap when you can catch the thermal and ride up on it. Wasted energy is stolen opportunity. Every unnecessary wing beat reduces the power available for hunting, for migration, for courtship, for protection. Hawks invest energy where success is likely. Hello, we're back to this. They're going to put where am I most likely going to succeed. When I was taking that company that you know about, I was hired to in 2015 to help my friend, my very, very good friend, very, very close friend, who had this little real estate company. 12 guys, 9 had quit, 3 were looking for a job, and he said, "Can you help me?" And I did. And then by 6 months later, they made $1 million profit. He said, I want to get on the Inc. 500 list. Can you help me with that? The Inc. 500 fastest growing. I did. And, by the end of that 3-year period, it was number 16 on the Inc. 500 list of fastest growing companies in America. What happened? He remarked, his observation of me was, you always work where success is the most likely. You put, what's the most likely thing? What's the most highest impact? And that's what you do. The hawk, for example, it'll study the sky. It looks for shifting currents, rising thermals, and subtle changes in the temperature. They can tell that. And with one gentle tilt of its wings, it slips into the updraft, and it allows creation itself, the wind itself, the air itself, to carry it. Isn't that beautiful? It knows when to advance and when to wait. It refuses to burn strength on low return movement. God designed you to operate in grace, not in grind. When you move in alignment with his wind, with his spirit, with his timing, with his leading, with his wisdom, tasks become lighter, decisions become clear, and progress is accelerated. Strength multiplies when you stop striving in your own power. Now, listen, I like to strive in my power. You probably do too. But I like success more than that. I want to do, is there an easier way? And if you're smart, you can do that. You look for high payoff opportunities. In business, energy conservation looks like prioritizing high yield tasks over busy work, automating or delegating the repetitive, the rest, and then resting strategically so that your creativity can refill. Choosing the profitable thermals instead of frantic flapping, and saying no to what drains and yes to what lifts. I would tell you, when I was taking on that people and we grew that company, to quite significant size, I would come in today and say, what's the one thing that if I did this one thing today, what would move the needle? Every day I'm looking for what's the one biggest thing that'll move the needle. Not like what's the thing nagging at me. Hey, have you done this? You done that? What's the one thing that's going to move the needle today the most? And I work on it. It's the law of energy conservation. I got to spend time working on it. I might as well work on something that's going to give me a good return. The leaders who rise highest aren't always the ones who work the hardest. They're the ones who work wisely, catching the invisible currents that God sends. This, my friends, is actually something that is spiritually discerned. It's a bigger topic. If we were in the same room, we could talk it through. But anyway, it's the law of energy conservation. Then there's the law of opportunity waves. How's that for a bird? Huh? The scripture says, as surely as the sun rises, so shall your light break forth. That's interesting. See, along the rugged Pacific shoreline, there's something called a black oyster catcher. That's it right there. It stands poised on a wave-splashed rock. It does not rush. It does not peck aimlessly. It waits. It's watching the rhythm of the tide with the patience of a seasoned mariner, and every few seconds a wave crashes upward, exposing mussels and limpets clinging to the rock. And for a brief moment, their defenses loosen and their shells open up a little bit and their guard drops. In that fleeting instant is the oyster catcher's window. With perfect timing, it darts forward, diving its chisel-like bill precisely between the shells. One strike, one pull, one victory. Opportunity is rhythmic. Opportunity is rhythmic. Predictable for the one who sees and understands the pattern. Because God sends waves of opportunity, moments when resistance is low, when doors open, and what was once inaccessible becomes attainable. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you right now. When you see something open, what a lot of people do is they wait and they think, well, what do we do now? What should I don't know what to do now. I'm going to tell you what to do now. The Bible says in Isaiah 55, call upon the Lord while he may be found. It also says now is the day of salvation. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, now. And so what I know is when you see the opportunity, be prepared for it and then act on it. It's a very big deal because you got to move when grace exposes the opening, not too early or too late, because success comes to those prepared to strike at the peak, at the crest. So study the rhythm of your industry. Identify the moments when clients are the most receptive. Move when grace exposes the opportunity, when it exposes the opening, not a second too early or too late. It's called the law of opportunity waves, and there's a rhythm to it. Once you see the rhythm, patterns, then you learn how to pounce on the pattern. Number 11 of 13 is the law of foraging order. Interesting. Let all things be done decently and in order. 1 Corinthians 14:40. See, here's something interesting. Birds know that disorder wastes time. It burns energy, and it causes them to overlook easy provision. A structured approach ensures maximum yield with minimum effort. Hello. Disorder wastes time. I think I need to get a little bit more organized, maybe. You see, order multiplies abundance. Birds will forage in a strikingly disciplined pattern. They're sweeping the tree from the top to the bottom, then branch by branch, ensuring that nothing is wasted and everything is gathered efficiently. Shorebirds, they probe the sand in structured grids. Who knew? Sparrows work grass patches in widening spirals. Even hummingbirds follow a rotation pattern among the flowers, visiting each blossom in a sequence before returning to the first one that has replenished its nectar. I'm telling you, there's order, and God blesses order. I'm not talking about rigidity. I'm not talking about perfectionism. I'm talking about wise structure. I don't know why it's that way, but I know when Jesus was raised from the dead, when he came up and when he was resurrected, he took the burial cloth and folded it neatly. I know that when they fed the 5,000 in Mark 6:40, there's 5,000 men plus women and children. So who knows, 15, 20,000 maybe. He didn't say, okay, sometimes you see these pictures of in countries that they're airlifting food in, and it's a madhouse. People trying to get the food that's being dropped from a helicopter or whatever it is. Jesus, he said to the disciples, make them sit down in ranks, in hundreds, and in 50s. Now, in case you don't know that idea of ranks is like a garden patch. It's like, it's a visual thing. It's not just, okay, there's 50 of you over here and they're just standing like a mob. No, they were in order. They sat down in an orderly rank. a plot, like a garden plot. And they did it in 150s. There's something about structure and order that matters to God. And one of the things it does is it order multiplies abundance and God blesses order. When your priorities are aligned and your tasks are sequenced and your actions are intentional, then you gather more with less strain because disorder drains you, but order gathers. And God often hides increase in routines that seem small. You know, the daily disciplines, the prioritized focus, the practice rhythms. Order creates space for multiplication. So start with the highest yield task, sequencing your day instead of reacting to it. Tackle projects in structured passes rather than scattered attempts. Organizing client follow-ups in cycles and create simple systems that keep opportunity from falling through the cracks. Ordered effort produces predictable harvest, and everybody likes to have harvest predicted. So God blesses the order. I suggest we get orderly on this one. Number 12, the law of hidden abundance. Scripture says the kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. Okay. Well, birds like the wren, that's a wren right there, a winter wren, they thrive because they are willing to search in places other people overlook. Oh my gosh. See, God hides treasure in unexpected places, in obscure conversations, in overlooked passages of scripture, in unglamorous tasks, quiet seasons, small beginnings. Hidden abundance is all around, but it rarely sits on the surface. It rewards the curious, the attentive, the persistent. The wren's survival is built on this truth that the richest blessings are often buried. And in business, hidden abundance is found in underserved niches, unmet client needs, overlooked skills that you carry, opportunities buried inside problems. The person who succeeds is the one who looks beneath the surface, asking deeper questions, studying ignored data, and exploring neglected markets. Don't, let me say, hidden abundance tests your willingness to seek, not skim. It trains your eyes to see what heaven sees. Don't despise the unimpressive field. When I moved to this great country from a land far, far away from Florida, from Canada, from British Columbia to Tennessee initially, and when I did that, and I applied for a job selling copiers that I did not want to do, but the position I was applying for was downtown Nashville. And they gave that to the Xerox sales manager that they recruited. But they told me there is this one, stepchild, redheaded stepchild of a territory that we've never had any success in. Now, they didn't put it to me that way, but that was what was happening. Out in the boondocks, if you want a job with us, you can have that territory. And I looked at that and I thought, they think that's lousy. I already worked at copiers in a big city in Toronto. It didn't do so well. I did copiers in a small area in British Columbia. I did a lot better. I'm going to go with this unimpressive thing because that's where the opportunity is, because the treasure is often hidden. It's often where people overlook. And this is the law of hidden abundance. This is that law. Okay. Next. Number 13. This is the last of the ones, the last of the laws, the law of the focused feast. That bird is amazing, by the way. If your eye is single, your whole body will be full of light. A kingfisher, that's a kingfisher. I don't know if anybody knew that or not, but it's a kingfisher. And it watches the river from its perch above the water. It waits with unwavering concentration. The kingfisher knows that the river is full of life, but only one fish matters. The one directly beneath its focus. When I met Judy, met her online. It wasn't like a dating thing. It just, I was through Facebook and whatever. I met her that way. And, after one phone conversation, I guess it was two, but within a 24-hour period, I told a friend of mine, I said, I just met the gal I'm going to marry. And he was like, hold on, don't go so fast. There's lots of fish in the sea. And I said, I don't care how many fish there are in the sea. I only need one, and I found her. And I'm marrying that woman. And I did. And it's been phenomenal. But the kingfisher, that's me, I guess. But to him, only one fish matters. And in terms of my life, my marriage, only one fish mattered. And we got that one. We got that worked out, me and Judy. But while other birds are distracted by scattered opportunities, the kingfisher, it fixes its vision. It doesn't chase everything. It commits to one target. Hope you're catching this. This is business. It commits to one target, one moment, one strike. And because of that, its success is extraordinary. And here's something interesting. See, when it's diving into the water, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but when you start to go into the water, it bends light. And so what you think is in one place is actually not quite there. So the kingfisher has a special transparent eyelid. It's a nictitating membrane which closes, protects the eye while also acting like a diving mask. It can see through it. And the bird shifts the shape of its eye and the position of its lenses to correct for refraction. It literally sees differently depending on the environment. So in other words, it's looking one way in the air, but as soon as it's in the water, it's got the mask on and it sees and it corrects for the refraction. Can you believe that? The kingfisher illustrates a crucial principle that vision got to adapt to the medium that you're in. Like what medium, where am I functioning in this whole thing? The concentrated harvest is made possible by disciplined attention. Disciplined, focused attention. That's a big deal. It's a huge deal. This bird will commit to one target. And what God does is he multiplies the life of the focused heart. What does it say? If you love God with all your heart, mind, soul, if you search him with all you got, he will show himself to you. He will reveal himself to you. He will be found of you, is what it actually says. But it's like if all your heart, like you're focused on him, he will do that. But vision divided is provision diluted. When your attention is scattered, opportunities blur. When your eye is single, fixed on God's leading and the assignment he's given you, clarity sharpens, timing aligns, and breakthrough becomes precise. So in business, choose one priority and give it your full strength. Define your ideal client, refine your message, simplify your offering, and focus your energy where the greatest yield lives. Don't nibble at everything. Choose your river. Identify your fish. Watch with intent. Strike with purpose. Your harvest will increase in direct proportion to your focus. Period. End of story, as they say, full stop on that. Now, one last note is this thing called the Japanese bullet train. Engineers in Japan, they had this bullet train going for some years. Then one of them noticed the kingfisher. He noticed that that bird right there, when it dove into the water, it didn't splash. It was like, it was amazing. It's like it just went in there like it slipped in there somehow. They were so impressed with it. They took a chance and they redesigned the bullet train because the engineers noticed that the kingfisher plunges into the water without making a splash. As a result, the remake of it cut their electrical costs by 30%. The thing travels 10% faster while consuming 30% less power, and it's dramatically quieter in the trains. So it's actually considered one of the greatest biomimicry successes in engineering. So that is that. I'm going to stop the shares. Anybody left on the call? Still got a few of you. Still got a bunch of people. Praise the Lord. What you guys think? Hey, Amelia, what do you think? You know what?
I think
Everybody's
this is
muted. I'm sorry.
fantastic.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I think this is so fantastic, so insightful, and I'm really enjoying it so much.
Well,
Like I
good.
told you in the last meeting that God had been opening my eyes before I even found you to these things in nature, and I was praying, Lord, show me more. And then
Yes,
I
I
found
remember
you.
that.
And then I found you, and I was like, wow, God, thank you. Because I said, bring me to the people, the place, the thing. What is it? And
Yeah.
yeah, so it is so amazing. I'm just enjoying it so much.
Well, good, good. Let me get any other feedback from anybody. Because hey, look, I work hard on this. I love it. I'm writing a book about it, but does it
So
connect? Anybody else
amazing.
got feedback for me?
Hey, it was amazing, Michael. Amazing.
Thank you, Jason. What, is there anything that stuck out to you particularly?
I think quieting yourself, that was really good. I'm trying to talk to my daughter about not having things in your ears all the time.
Oh,
We need to have this idea of being bored so we can create, but also so we can hear and listen to God. And that's me too. I have a problem too. I think, oh, I should listen to something motivational or worship music, and all those things are good. But I think we certainly need to have those times, a lot of times, where we are quieting ourselves. So that was really good.
For me,
well,
it's hard to stay quiet, Michael, but I listened to you the whole time. I'm proud of myself. I'll be talking to you a lot more.
Gerald,
Thank
listen, I'm glad that you're on it. And I'll tell you this, guys, and Dave Schmaltz, this is one of the things I was thinking. I told my wife this. Hi, Laura. I told my wife this. I said, in this book that I'm working on, there's so much good information, but I promise you, it won't, every bit of it probably won't be hitting home with you. But certain things are going to resonate more than other things. Like Jason just pointed out, the one thing that kind of got him was about the quiet, which was good. And so that's the way it is. But this took a fair bit of study and a lot of work to put this together for y'all. But I wanted to do that. And so, but I recognize that as we go through this, and I'm debating this, it might go through all 12 habits. I'm developing it, so I'm getting better at it as I turn it into a book. And would you guys want more of this or less? Tell me if you want more. We're good,
Yeah.
You
Gerald.
know what? You're doing a good job of judging, Michael. I'm going to leave it up to you, but I love this. This is great.
Oh man, thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
And it comes at a time in my life where I'm making a change from what I do and from what I believe, and that's God's truth. And that's thanks to you.
Wow. God bless you, brother. Thank you, Gerald. Man,
You're welcome. You're
I owe
welcome.
you a hug, buddy. We just hadn't.
Well, you're gonna get it. I might come and see you.
That would be nice.
Yeah,
That'd be nice.
We'll talk about that.
All right. So, Lee, Judy, somebody else, talk to me. What'd you think?
Can you hear me?
Somebody else? Is that you, Dave?
It was Roger.
Roger, where's
Figure out
Roger?
if
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out what I'm connected to in terms of this. I
Hey,
made a comment. I actually saw every piece of this as actionable material. It's stuff I was sitting here writing notes about the work that I do and where I could actually apply it. I got like
wow.
four pages of notes here.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
No,
Well,
seriously. I mean, I could see this. I could see you putting this into some sort of workbook form.
oh yeah. Yeah. No, like I had to summarize to get this. I'd already written a chapter and then I'm rewriting it for certain reasons. And so I thought, well, I got to get the PowerPoint ready tonight. By the way, I've been doing this all day. I mean, I'm up at 5:30 this morning, 5:45 until now. I mean, I walk my dog, have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, whatever, that kind of stuff. But I mean, this is all I did just to put this together for y'all. And it's kind of counterintuitive, but in some respects, but this is the free stuff. Now, I do have a question for anybody, and I had a plan for tonight, but it's so late that it's probably not a good idea right now. But I'll do it if they want me to. But it's probably not the right time. I have I was going, when we say goodbye, I was going to, hey Richard Austin, good to see you, Rick. When we say goodbye, I was going to take a 5-minute break, and then anybody who wanted to learn about the Jesus School of Business, I'd jump into that, because sometimes you can't come back on another night. But maybe I'll just do it another night. I don't know.
I want to hear more about it.
Huh?
I want to hear more about it. But it doesn't have to be tonight, Michael. It can be anytime.
Okay. Well, you know what? I think I'll do it a different time because I think what I would do if I'm not careful is I'd rush it, and I don't want to rush it. So
And
I'm gonna do.
would you do me a favor and text me when you have a minute at any time, and maybe you and I'll have a little conversation?
Yeah, I'll be glad to do that. Glad to do
That'd
that.
be great. That'd be great. Thanks, Mike.
You bet. Hey Mo.
Hey, what's going on, Mike? I got here late, man. My day has been I've been running all day and I got off the phone with a business partner. I said, "Wait a minute." And I at the time, so I got here right as you were showing the kingfish and I was like, "What?" And just that piece right there, man. It's
Well,
yeah.
hey, let's go in the chat. I want to do a little survey for Mo. Tell Mo, should he watch the replay or not? If you say
Oh,
yes,
I'm gonna
Yes.
watch it. You don't have to
Yes.
tell me.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna watch the
Yes.
replay. That is done. It's
Yes.
so,
Watch it.
oh yeah, that's you had to tell me. I'm on that replay
Where do we
side.
get the replay from, Michael?
Jason, I'm going to post it eh, on the Thursday nights. I always post it on the Supernatural Business site. I always have the last three on there, but then I also put it in YouTube and I also email it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to do that. And just for my encouragement, is anybody here when I get the book written? Anybody going to buy one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Anybody going to buy more than one?
Yes.
Who knows? Let's see.
absolutely.
Because I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you with all the sincerity that I know how to tell you this with. This is an answer for so many people that are struggling with the problem of the Bible says my God will meet all my needs according to his riches and glory, but my needs aren't met. I don't understand that. This is like God says he loves the birds, he feeds them, but I don't feel like I don't see any food on my front yard. I don't see any dollar bills floating around there, any gold in the backyard. I don't see that. Like I know he's not lying, but I don't understand. Well, I'm going to tell you the answer is in what I'm writing. When you understand that, and by the way, you don't make money in books unless you sell a million, which I intend to, by the way, with your help. but, um, but you know, a $20 book is not a big deal. But it's going to be a big deal. Because I know it's there, and I wish anyway. I won't get into it, but I'm glad to know that you guys are going to get it. So that's good. Rick Osteen told me, well, I've had a number of comments where people said, yeah, I'm in on that. So that's good. So anybody else? Okay, let me just see. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, Mo, you're supposed to do this. Yeah, you're gonna have to watch this. Oh, thank you for the encouragement. Because you know what? When you work hard on this, and then the whole time I'm doing it, I'm talking to a screen. I don't see anybody. Like, is anybody still there? So it's nice to know that you're still there. I appreciate that very much. Anybody else have a question or comment? I don't think I was going to stay on and do the other part tonight. I'm not too tired, but I don't want to rush and I don't want to stretch you guys. I didn't realize I took as long as I did. So hopefully that was okay with you guys.
I just want to say that the two parts that really made all of it impacted me, but the two ones were the one of incremental advancement, and it reminds me of the tortoise and the hare,
Uh-huh.
and then the other one about the weather window, taking flight at the proper time, and those two really made impact on me, given my situation at this time. So.
Well, thank you for saying that. I'm going to throw in a freebie. You guys want to hear a free thing right now?
Sure.
You bet.
It was all free, but anyway, here's another one. The migration.
I can't do this.
There is a thing that happens.
This doesn't
We've
work.
all had it happen,
I don't,
but we haven't always responded to it.
it doesn't make
And that thing that I'm talking about is,
sense. I don't get it yet.
and by the way, I got to mute somebody. I'm not sure who that is.
Every time you make a connection with
I got to
something,
hit some mutes here. There we go. there's something that happens. It's happened to me a number of times. It's like a micro migration because the migration, it's not like an alarm clock goes off. It's not like that. But something begins to stir. A restlessness comes, and I presume they don't quite know why, but they got to get up and they got to go. And if you will follow that, it's something that we think, well, that doesn't make any sense. Let me tell you what doesn't make any sense. When I lived in Canada, one day I had a inexplicable desire, and I lived in British Columbia, to go to Toronto. Hadn't been to Toronto since I was 11 years old. I didn't know why. Made no sense. But I couldn't escape it. So I migrated. I hopped on a plane and I flew to Toronto. Got off the plane, didn't know why I was there, rented a car, drove to the nearest hotel, Holiday Inn Airport. Got up the next morning, said, well, I don't know what I'm going to do here. I haven't been here since I was a child. But I remember we used to have a summer cottage on Lake Simcoe. Does anybody know where that is? Anybody? Maybe not. Anyway, it's I don't know, maybe 100 miles north of Toronto, something like that. So I thought, well, I might as well go up there and kind of revisit the cottage that we used to stay at. The only problem was last time I was there, I was in the back seat of a station wagon it was a dirt road, and now it was somewhat developed and it was paved and nothing looked the same. And I was driving and I didn't know where I was. And I was driving. I thought, I don't know where it is. I don't know where I am at. I'm driving along. There's a lake over there. I'm clueless. I stopped the car in frustration, not knowing where I was or why I was there. And there was a cow pasture on one side and wood on the other side and no traffic and no residences. And I just stopped in the country and I got out of the car and said, God, where am I? And as I gazed around, I looked into the woods and I saw on the wood, nailed onto a tree, a sign with 4 letters, P-I-N-K. It was the marker that was there since I was a child of the property that our summer cottage. You couldn't see the house from there, the cottage from there, because there was acreage. And so it was out of view. That's why you couldn't recognize it, because there was, I don't know, acres of trees between the road and the house. So I didn't know it. But from there, I knew how to get to it. So I went to it. Of course, it was March and people shut their cottages down. They boarded them up over winter. And so I went up to it and I said, yeah, that's it. Nobody was in it. It was boarded up. It was winter. And I thought, well, I took a look at the lake and yeah, okay, there's snow. I think it might have still been frozen. I can't remember. But anyway, whatever it was. And then I noticed as I was walking back to the neighbor's cottage, there was somebody in it. The lights were on. I thought, that's unusual. People don't usually live in the cottage, but somebody's there. Turned out it was a woman, and that woman was sick. She felt sick about, I don't know, an hour earlier, half hour earlier, whatever it was. And so she called her husband at work and she said, can you come home and take me to the doctor? Now you have to understand a little bit of a backstory. When I was 11 years old, I did a couple of things that were not popular with my stepmother. And so she'd had enough of me. So she dropped me off at a doorstep and and said, I'll see you on Monday, and never came back. So I never got to, that was the end of my family. And my half siblings and 2 half brothers and half sister and her, that was it. They were gone. And I'm 11 years old and I'm trying to figure life out. But I ended up, stayed with my grandmother and then ultimately got back with my father and so on. But I hadn't seen those people ever again. So anyway, I'm at the cottage and she calls for her husband and he comes home just as I'm getting almost to my car to leave. And he looks at me like, what are you doing here? And I said, do you know who owns this boarded up cottage? He said, yeah, my mother. I said, what's her name? He said, Pink. I said, you must be David, my brother that was 8 years older than me. I said, I'm Michael. And he dropped more F-bombs than every other thing, but it was in joyfulness. Holy blankety, blankety, blank, blank. Hugged me like, that's Michael. He goes inside the house, calls his stepmother, his mother, my stepmother. He says, Mom, guess who's here? She says, Michael. Why? Because the day my plane was flying into Toronto, as it was on its way in, she had gone to work that day, and on her way home, she had this overwhelming thing. Whatever happened to Michael? And she went in and knelt down and said a prayer. David, who didn't go to church except to get married, had an overwhelming desire to, he didn't know what to do with his thoughts about me. So he went into a church and he knelt down and he prayed. And then I had a meeting, I found out I had another brother I didn't even know about from the first time I was dropped off when I was 3. And I found him. And he, on the same day that my plane was arriving in Toronto, was so overwhelmed with whatever happened to little Mikey, because he was older than me, that he told his fiance, I got this brother you never heard about. And he went and showed her a bunch of pictures of me. All happened as my plane is arriving into Toronto. What happened as a result of that dramatically and permanently changed my life. I've migrated a few times. I've learned sometimes when there's something stirring, what we want, guys, Gerald, you may be like this too. It's not just you, it's all of us. We tend to want certainty. But God said to Abraham, he said, I want you to go head north. I'll let you know when you get there. Not exactly how he said it, but you know what I mean, Laura. You know what I mean. And he said, he doesn't give us the details. Usually, it's like, here's the direction. Trust me. And the number of times I have migrated, miniature migrations, where it made no sense when God invited me to go to another nation, Panama. Fly down there. I want to show you something. 2 weeks later, I'm in Panama. Like, what? And as a result of that, the book Rainforest Strategy right here behind me, if you can see that came out of that trip. Was some of the fruit of that. I made 5 trips to the Panamanian rainforest after that. So know this, Amelia, you said that the migration thing, the weather, I'm going to tell you, when God stirs on the inside, he rarely, in my experience, is kind of almost never tells you the details. He just says, you'll know when you get there. And then we say, oh, that doesn't make sense. And we miss. We have to weather winter when we were meant to fly south and enjoy the background that Gerald has in his picture right now, the palm trees and the beach, whatever. So anyway, that was just a little free thing for you guys.
Mike, remember the first conversation we had on the phone?
I do.
I've never been the same since. That's the truth.
Wow.
And I thank you. Yeah.
Hey, how could I forget that, Gerald?
Yeah. Well,
We had a pretty direct conversation.
Yeah, we did. I liked it. We'll have another one.
My first biker friend.
Yeah. Man, I miss riding.
Yeah.
I've ridden all my life except the last couple of years. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
Listen, guys, I feel awkward taking the time to read all the comments and while everybody waits. So, and there's so many of them, I didn't realize that. But so I'm just going to ask you, if you need something, you want something, you want to ask it, either raise your hand, put your hand up, or speak up, or do something. I'm not bashful about helping anybody. I just want to do that if that's there, and I don't see that happening. So we're probably just going to tie this knot. But do me this favor, just one thing, so I'll know this. Are you in just put in the chat right now if you would like to know the details about the Jesus School of Business. Several of you are already in it, so I know that's that, but several of you are not. And I have a monthly mentorship, I have a bi-weekly coaching, and I have a weekly mastermind. Okay, that's the paid group. This is the free meetings. The paid one is when I work directly with you in a group setting, and I help you in your business and so on. Is anybody interested in that kind of stuff? Maybe put it in the chat.
Michael.
Yeah.
The paid group is worth every penny. I can tell you, I've been working with Michael for 8 years now or so. It's worth every penny. And he responds if you need something personal, just like Gerald said. Since I met Michael, I've never been the same. So I don't get paid for this either. So it's worth every penny that you invest.
So, Michael,
Thank you, Kevin.
are you able to talk about what that costs right now, or?
Yeah, I can. You know, I'll tell you this. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will.
I mean, Michael, you gave so much free tonight that I feel guilty a little bit, because I know obviously you worked all day and you have a lifetime of what you have worked on, and this was incredible. So I feel like we should have paid you for this. So,
That's very kind of you. You know, I haven't made a history of doing free things like this.
no, you have to live, absolutely,
No,
like everybody else.
No, yeah, but you know what? I'm actually doing something that I saw in Mark 9:23, Mark 4:23, 4:28, something. I have to look at it. Anyway, Mark 4. And Jesus, he went around and he taught in the synagogues and he preached the gospel in other places, and then he healed the sick. And he did those three things. He taught and he preached and he healed. And some of it was free. I mean, he didn't take up offerings that I know of, but I mean, some people, when they decided to follow him and get mentored directly by him, there was a cost that they had to endure.
Makes sense.
Whatever it is. So, so I figure I do this. That way you'll get a chance to. But I tell you what, it ranges. I'll tell you I have a scholarship program that's $97 a month, and that's for the monthly mentor. That's the scholarship, and it gives you access to hundreds of biblically based and natural law based training. The natural law is like the tree is a business model and all that kind of stuff, and so that's like the lowest level. That's the scholarship level. I have the weekly mastermind is $449 a month, and then the coaching is $297 a month, and that's biweekly. One's biweekly, one's weekly. And the thing is, during that, you can email me anytime and say, "Hey, Michael, I got this thing. What should I do here?" I've got people that are on this call that I'm corresponding with quite a bit. They send me an email. "Can you look at this? I got this negotiation I'm in. What should I do?" And we do that. It's genuine, it's coaching, it's helpful, and it's good teaching. Our next session is I got one tomorrow. So I suppose if anybody wanted to join that, you'd have to go to michaelpink.com/JSB. I believe that's it. Let me double check, because I got a few websites going. So let me make sure I'm saying that right. michaelpink.com. It might not be that one. It might be, let me see. Did I get it right? Yeah, I got it right. So if you go to michaelpink.com/JSB, I have on that, there's a previously recorded webinar, and there's a lot of details about it, what's included. So Jason, take a look at it. The thing about this, the contract for that is you have to put up your house as equity, and your car, or you just give a good testimonial. That'd be all right. I'm kidding. It's you're in for as long as you want to be, because we don't lock anybody into it. So yeah, thank you. Evelyn put it in there, the link, michaelpink.com/JSB. Tomorrow at noon Eastern time is the next live meeting. And then the next live, the monthly one, the one that's the $97 one, the scholarship one, that's once a month. That is a week from today, the 11th, December 11th. And so, you hop in, see what that's all about, because I don't go on as long as we have tonight. I've just had too much fun tonight. But I will.
Outstanding.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Gerald.
You bet, buddy.
Yeah, man. All right, guys, I'm gonna bring this to an end. Is there anybody else that has a comment, question, anything?
Thank you and good night.
Scripture for law number 7, Amelia asked me. Amelia, I have to look and see. Let me just take a look and see if I did. If I didn't, I could easily. You know what? I don't see one there. But send me an email. I'll send you scripture, okay? I'll do it that way. I'd be glad to do that way. All right. All right, guys. I hate to do this, but I'm going to say goodnight.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you for being here.
Good night.
Do me a
Hey,
favor.
Thanks a lot now.
Thank you, guys. Do me this one favor, Dave. Sophie. Hi, Sophie. Madeline, others that are on the call. This is a free thing, but I think it's pretty good. I put a lot into it. So invite some people, let them know. Would you do that? Kind of.
So can we just forward the link and anybody can watch this?
Yeah, just tell them, tell them, send a note, tell them to go to the link or supernaturalbusiness.com. And, that's where it is. That's where the link, learn about it. Because you've been here several times. There's no pitch. There's nothing. It's this.
Okay.
It's the free stuff.
Okay, buddy.
All right, guys. God bless you all.
Yeah. You too,
Be in
Michael.
touch.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Kevin.